How do K-12 public schools respond to enrollment decline strategically through intentional program design, thoughtful staffing, and purposeful facilities planning, instead of reactively through cuts and churn? Well, that question has sat on the desk of nearly every superintendent and central office director in America at one time or another. Not hypothetically, not someday, sometime. And the hard truth is that far too many school systems have not answered it in the best way. So let me tell you about something I watched unfold early in my career, a moment I have never quite been able to shake. A gifted central office administrator that I knew had poured everything into her district. She knew curriculum, she understood finance, she had fought hard for programs that served students with no one else in their corner. But when enrollment began to slip, she did not sit down with her team to ask, "What is our long-range plan?" She opened a spreadsheet and asked, "What do we cut first?" Well, the decisions came fast. An elective gone here, a paraprofessional position eliminated there, a coaching role converted to a classroom assignment. Each decision felt defensible in isolation. Together, they slowly gutted the very things that had made her schools worth choosing. So within 2 years, families were leaving, not because of the enrollment decline, but because of the district's response to it. The decline accelerated. The cuts deepened. The churn became self-fulfilling. She had not failed because she was incompetent. She had failed because she was operating from a posture of crisis rather than one of vision. That posture, reactive, fearful, short-sighted, is the single greatest threat facing K-12 public schools in this enrollment era. Here is what we know. K-12 enrollment has declined by 2.3%, or 1.18 million students, over the past 5 years. The National Center for Education Statistics projects a further 5.5% decline by 2031, affecting 40 states. The Bellwether West End analysis projects this could cost public education $11.5 billion in state revenues annually by 2030-2031. So this is not a blip. It is a structural shift, and structural shifts demand structural responses. So the question is not whether your district will be affected. For most of us, it already has been. The question is whether your response will be designed or left as the default. The first trap is preserving structure while sacrificing content, holding on to buildings that can no longer be filled, staffing models that no longer fit, and program configurations built for a headcount that no longer exists, all while waiting for things to bounce back. Well, they will not. Excellent Ed projects an additional 2.4 million fewer public school students by 2031. Driven by falling birth rates, expanded school choice, and post-pandemic family shifts that are not reversing course. Waiting is not a strategy. It is denial dressed up as patience. The second trap is equally destructive. Indiscriminate cutting rather than intentional redesign. Districts reduce electives, freeze positions, and consolidate schools without first asking the harder question. What kind of school system do we need to be for the students and the community we actually have? The Keystone Policy Center found that districts that successfully navigated enrollment decline shared one defining characteristic. They treated it not as a crisis to be survived, but as a strategic inflection point to be embraced. The right response begins not with a spreadsheet, but with a question. What do we want to be true for students in this community 10 years from now? From that anchor, 3 domains of strategic work emerge. Program design is an enrollment strategy. Families leaving traditional public schools are not usually fleeing bad teachers. They are seeking options better aligned with their child's educational pathway. Consolidating and strengthening specialized programs into intentional magnets or specialty models draws families across attendance zones rather than splintering thin resources across too many buildings. Staffing is a long-range investment. The Wisconsin Policy Forum captures the tension clearly. Enrollment losses are incremental, but staffing structures cannot shift as quickly. So, a deliberate, multi-year workforce plan, one that uses retirement attrition strategically and invests in the staff who remain, prevents the freeze, then layoff churn that demoralizes schools. As Rory Vanden reminds us, the most significant investment any organization can make is in becoming the kind of institution its vision requires. Facilities are a community anchor, not a liability. Delaying the hard conversations until financial emergencies force them means making those decisions in crisis with lasting damage to community trust. Right-sizing facilities to match actual enrollment, co-locating programs in fewer but better equipped buildings, and repurposing underutilized space with community partners are signs of leadership, not failure. Bellwether and West End are clear. Enrollment contractions can catalyze transformation for systems that act with urgency and intentionality. So underneath all of it is a financial reality that cannot be ignored. Per pupil funding means every student who leaves is a revenue reduction, and costs do not fall at the same pace. So the most forward-thinking districts are building multi-year financial models aligned with enrollment projections. They are working with state partners to leverage tools such as California's 3-year rolling average formula and Florida's Educational Enrollment Stabilization Program. They are having the structural conversations before the budget crisis arrives. Stephen Covey put it plainly. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So for K-12 leaders, the main thing is always students. Every structural decision, program consolidation, staffing redesign, and facilities right-sizing must be measured against whether it strengthens the conditions in which students learn and grow. That is the guardrail that keeps strategic planning from becoming restructuring with no soul. So before you respond to the next declining enrollment report, before you authorize another round of cuts, before you approve another year of holding on to buildings you can no longer justify, I want you to pause. And I want you to ask yourself honestly, are we responding from a posture of vision or a posture of survival? Have we mapped a 10-year enrollment trajectory and built our designs against it? And are the choices we are making right now strengthening this district's value to families or quietly eroding it? The districts that come through this era with their community's trust intact will not be the ones that waited longest to change. They will be the ones who choose to lead when it was hard. The ones who said, we see this coming and we are going to design our way through it for the children who depend on us to get this right.